Hello, my name is Rob and welcome to Directors Uncut. On this podcast we put filmmakers from all corners of the globe onto a huge list that covers everything from vintage melodrama to Hitchcockian psychodrama. Then we turn it into a lottery of directors by using a random number generator to pick a name out of the hat. Whatever name comes out, myself and a rotating cast of guests discuss them and their work through 2 films. We are down to the final 3 Patreon migrations, and in this episode I have been joined by Aidan. Hello there.
Hello. Good to be back.
Yes. First time listeners will not be aware, but Aidan has been in many podcasts with myself, going all the way back to Cinema Eclectica, which ran for many a year.
Yeah, I was pretty much a regular. So I'm a regular comrade of both Rob and Graham.
Yeah.
Obviously, Graham couldn't be here on this week, but yeah, and we're also in the middle of recording this episode on like so many external factors. We're also doing this in the middle of a storm at the moment.
Well, at least it's not like the last storm where fences and roofs are blown everywhere. That was terrible.
Yeah, I had no power for about a week. That was fun.
Really? You're one of the unlucky ones. I'm really sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Let me just the cards that life throws you sometimes, I guess. I think it's quite apropos that we're talking about something which isn't the most positive in the world, because it's kind of a neat segue into the director that we're going to be doing. It is Korean director. He was actually the Korean Minister for Tourism and Culture between 2003 and 2005. That's right.
What a career that man has.
Lee Chang-Dong.
Yes. Because this is the part in the show where we discuss our previous experience with the director, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, I mean, the only film I'd seen from him previously was his latest, Burning, and it's suffice to say that I wasn't a fan.
Yeah, I mean, much the same with me. I heard of him first with Poetry, and that was, around 2011. Around that time, Korean cinema was like this hot, sexy thing of, thrillers and action and intrigue. And you get this really downbeat movie about an elderly woman who discovers herself again through a pottery class. And I was a bit confused.
Yeah, why? Yeah, I mean, he seems to be like one of those filmmakers that seems to get a lot of raving at, say, festivals like Cannes, or the Berlin Festival. And I mean, the first time I saw Burning, it was just a matter of, wow, this is rather bland, really.
I thought, good on you, Stephen Yeun, for having such a big role. I thought it was great for him, Stephen Yeun.
Yeah, magic realism. I know Murakami. I mean, I haven't read one of his books, but I know he's regarded in literature circles as being magic realist, essentially.
Yeah, I guess. So, there's a lot of that.
And I guess this just doesn't have that element involved with Burning, and it just felt like a very slow watch that why am I following these characters that I don't care about?
I mean, I've read a few Murakami. He's the author of one of my favourite books. It's called Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World, which it's got 2 narratives running side by side, one which is quite weird, and it's about this hole in the back of a garden where he's digging to find another reality, and you have one where his life's kind of falling apart. It's been a while since I've read it, but that's the gist of it. And the magical essence of it, it seems every time somebody tries to adapt him, they just get rid of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've not seen any of the other adaptations for exactly this reason. I've heard Drive My Car's quite good.
Yeah, there was Norwegian Wood as well, which was the first one, which, didn't do it for me.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not something that, I'm really enthusiastic to discover, really, to put it politely.
His books are better. His books are better.
Yeah, talking through the adaptations wise, but so previously that was my only experience with Chang-Dong, and I'll be honest with you, it just didn't do anything for me. So,
well, the movies that we're going to do today. The first one is his directorial debut, 1997's Green Fish, and the one which I think got him on the brought him a lot of people's attention internationally, 2007's Secret Sunshine. So which one do you want to tackle first?
Shall we do Green Fish first? Because that is the one that I caught first, as well as, well, with it being his debut, it makes sense. And on top of that, I don't really think I have a lot to say about it, to be honest.
No, not really. kind of see what you say. Hang on. See what you say. Say what you see. I got it the right way around. Story-wise, though, it's about a character. He's a guy who's come out of the army. He seems to not be entirely sure of where he wants to go. He seems to be a bit of an idealist. In the first scene we see him, he sees a woman being, I don't know how you call it, accosted, but just for the sake of it being kind of accurate. But a woman's being accosted by 3 guys. He interacts with that situation, and he ends up getting beat up and chased away from the train. So,
yeah,
I'm not sure what this guy is. Fast forward a little bit, we head back to his home. He's got a severely disabled brother, hasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. He has a disabled brother. I'm pretty much just going off the IMDb synopsis right now, because honestly I can't recall what happens in this film all too well. But basically he falls in line with gangsters.
Yeah.
In like I don't know, Saw.
It is Saw.
Yeah. So, and it's very much like an atmosphere of like, you know, Korea in like the late 90s. So you get a lot of bright neon lights. There's a lot of say dealings with these gangsters that, you know, doesn't go according to plan. There's a lot of fighting back and forth, and it's kind of aimless and quite vague.
Yeah, I mean, it's like episodes, isn't it, of him, apparently, according to his own description, it's a depiction of Korea and people on the edge of society. I don't think it really does a great job of selling that. It's just a character study in which you don't really get to know the character that well, I don't think. He just seems a bit easily distracted.
I think that's precisely my problem with it, because without say a leading character to fully latch onto, you just end up thinking, again, it goes back to the issue that I had with Burning, where it just felt like, well, why am I following these people where I don't really get to know their personalities at all?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the problem, especially when you have like big players, because this has Song Kang-Ho in it.
It's wild to see him so young.
Yeah, and even with him, just to see him in the background, where he basically plays like one of the small-time gangsters in this, where he just doesn't really get much characterization or development, really. It's very interchangeable, I find.
Yeah.
And it's
There's no lead character, there's nobody to sort of connect to. I mean, technically there is a lead character, but he's, like you said, he's vague. I don't feel, having seen the movie and seen everything that happens to him, I don't really think I could tell you much about him, other than the fact that he surrounds himself with people who have stronger personalities than himself.
Yeah, and it's just kind of frustrating on my end, because I want to latch on to, like, say, because I'm, you know, like I said, it's certainly like the atmosphere is certainly lush for, say, something like, you know, but then again, I mean, it's like Asia, like I say, in the 1990s, so of course it's going to be like that, and it just doesn't really do anything for me, where it just seems to be just like blandness, really, for the sake of it.
That's harsh. One interesting thing I have about it, though, I don't know how many 1990s Hong Kong movies you've seen, but it has like this wild sense, the way it's shot, and the music that's used, the fashion. The 1990s in Hong Kong and South Korea are very 80s.
Yeah.
It's disarming.
Yeah, I mean, because I've had that compliment for a lot of things. I mean, I don't know if you've seen like a lot of Hu Xiaoqian,
not as much
but
as
it did remind me of that. Yeah, it did remind me a bit of Daughter of the Nile, where, well, granted, I didn't really have this much of a problem with Greenfish as I do with, no, sorry, the other way around. Daughter of the Nile is like, I think, it's the better film. But that's simply because it, I think, has a lot more texture to it. I mean, you see like the lead female character get involved in with gangsters, but also is also running like a Kentucky Fried Chicken joint, a KFC. She's a worker there, so there's certainly like settings to it there where it's just built upon. Whereas this, there's just not enough environments that I could really describe as like interesting for the plot or the characters.
I mean, you can see like a influence of what's he called? Chungking Express. His name's on the tip of my tongue.
Wong Kar-wai.
Yeah, you can definitely see the Wong Kar-wai reference or influence there.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen very little Wong Kar-wai, so I couldn't really tell you, but it does have like, say, like Chungking Express vibes, or even like Fallen Angels. Yeah,
which is. It goes back to that thing originally. I think he co-script wrote on some projects prior. I mean, this 1997, this is prior to the big explosion for Korean New Wave, so I don't think it was quite
just before, wasn't it?
I don't think it's quite as strong on a filmmaking vibe. So I don't think he would have got this job if it was like 3 years later. I don't think he'd have been asked to help on scripts if it was just 3 years later. But he was at the right place at the right time. He helped on some scripts and he kept on getting pestered to be the director.
Yeah.
And this is his first go. And I think he does a good job. I mean, I don't think it's particularly badly directed. The scenes are all well put together, the blocking's all fine.
Yeah.
But, you say blandness, but it is kind of accurate at the same time. There's nothing, I don't think you get much of a sense of who he is off this one movie.
Yeah, no, I probably agree with that because, I mean, if I have to ask, I did like this a little bit more than Burning.
Okay.
Because that's just me. Because Jesus Christ, don't get me started on Burning again. But this is just, firstly, it doesn't feel like I've sat through like 2.5 hours worth of material. Just to get to like one golden scene. I mean, there is some decent direction going on here. I mean, I did feel like where it did like have a bit more of a strong like punch to it is like to what. And spoilers, by the way, for an obscure 90s Korean film. Shall we spoil it?
We've spoiled everything so far, so why not? Why not?
there's a really harsh scene of violence towards the end where one of the gangsters, I believe it's Chang-Dong, does it like his first contract killing in the toilet?
Yes, Chang-Dong, yeah.
I think it's pretty sure Chang-Dong. And it is like a really just pulls the rug out of under your seat moment.
Oh, yeah. So much blood.
It is a lot of blood. I mean, even with quite a devilish sense of humour at the same time, because there's a guy in the next cubicle who just walks out unwittingly, which I really did approve of.
I mean, I like it. It's fine as sort of a nihilistic 90s crime thriller. Which it sounds like you agree on that point too, but I don't think it really wants to be one.
Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of mode, isn't it? Because where there's a lot of like harsh slapping and punching in this film, where you know, which I guess is like the kind of thing, but it's not on the same level as say like The Chaser, for example. Na Hong-jin's The Chaser, which I just think is a 10 times better film because of it, because there's clearly defined characters and it is such a thrill ride.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to what he wanted this thing to be. It's more about Korea than it is about any of the characters in it.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I did respect it more than, like I say, The Burning, which is like the only other thing. No, not The Burning. That's a completely different film. Sorry.
That's an 80s slasher, that one, with the scissors.
Wrong one. But yeah, I mean, I just felt it was all right. But then again, it's his debut, so you can also say that he's learning his craft here. Yeah.
I mean, with no classical training either as well. It is fundamentally sort of, I hate using this word because it's such a lauded connotations behind it, but amateur to amateur production.
Yeah, I mean, you are dealing with that end of the sword, aren't you?
Yeah.
Once you consider that. In fact, one thing I did notice is how out of place I felt the score was.
Yeah. It's not
very strange.
It's not good. I don't know how you describe it really. It's lots of sort of cut rate synth.
Yeah, very airy synth, smooth jazz sax solo, which is not what I expect when I hear a nihilistic Korean gangster drama.
Yeah, it leads into another thing quite nicely as well, because there's a thread throughout it with like a romantic spin to it. Like he's him falling in love with effectively the gangster's girl, like the head gangster's girl. And the music sets it up as very, very, very melodramatic.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the kind of like typical like thriller score that you expect. It's very out of place. I mean, don't get me wrong. If it was played like on like a K-drama, say from I don't know, like say someone else, then maybe that could work. But for this, I did feel it was a bit out of place, but still, nonetheless, nice has a nice tone to it. I guess.
I mean, I don't know about yourself, but I don't really know what I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, it's a film that I just think that, it's fine, but it's, like, not going to change the world or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was 1999, the movie Shuri got Korean cinema international recognition. And one of the actors in this actually was in Shuri. I thought, that's a nice little bit of happenstance there. The lead character is also in Shuri. But I think if this was made post 2000 and 99 was Shiri, but say post 2000, I don't think Lee Chang-Dong would have really stood out quite as much. I think he would, because using the term green fish, the analogy of that is kind of like he's very green in the green sense of, you know, the new, they don't know what they're doing, and he's a small fish in a big pond.
Yeah, I think there's a line of dialogue where he just referenced this, isn't he? In like 2/3 of the way through, or say something like that. I mean, like I said, there are episodic elements to this that, you know, you can think about. There's also that scene where I think one of the gangsters is stripping in like say middle of a ditch and forced to do horrible things.
Oh yeah, to a deacon.
Yeah, to a deacon, that was it. And it's just like a matter of, oh god, this is not. Yeah.
And there's another scene as well where they're in like in a karaoke bar. And he says, "You better not sing. If you sing, you become less than human. Don't you dare sing." Which is another aspect of his characters. What?
Yeah, where someone breaks their own fingers on a toilet door to make sure that he's been in a fight. What?
He's a very badly defined character, I think.
Yeah, it's very odd, isn't it? It's very odd because I haven't really seen many K-dramas with characterization like this. Really, it's just a bit all over the place.
Yeah, the tone does jump around, but that's just Korean like stuff. That's just the way it is. But
yeah, I mean, I don't mind that. It's just how it's used, really.
Characters usually how you know who the characters are usually, and this I don't know who anybody is in it. After having watched 2 hours of it, I still don't know who any of them are. Not really.
No, I completely agree. I mean, like I say, I don't have anything particularly bad to say anything against it. It's just kind of exists, really.
It's just the worst thing to say about a movie, isn't it? He just exists. But it's true. It is true. And I think, like I was saying, if this was released sort of post 2000, I don't think Lee Chang-Dong would have really had the position in Korean cinema that he does now. I think he struck at the perfect time to get the most career out of what he did.
Yeah, I would agree. Like I said, not the worst that I've seen from him, but it's certainly, you know, I think for completists, really.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Sheets. We got the sheets and the mattress. Yeah, okay, let's put it all together. Let's think. Add it up. What do we got? What are you doing? Stop! What are you doing?
Shh. Hold this for me.
No, that's your shirt. You hold it. I like your energy, but I'm not with you.
When the shirt gets wet, it doesn't break.
I don't know what that means. And then... Okay, and then what? Then with the wet shirt, you bend the bars. That's the payoff. Don't waste my time with stuff like that, okay? A 2,000-year-old civilization, that's all you can come up with? Shame on you. Shame on you. Come on, stop, please. It's embarrassing.
See? I told you so.
No, you said wet shirt don't break, not piss shirt bend bar. Twist it.
Hey, help.
Okay, yeah, get it. There you go. Just one more, yeah. You're strong as an ox. Go, you can do it. There, you got it. We're getting it.
Taking a break from the conversation with Aidan to do a little bit of a mid-roll. Say what's coming up. Usual stuff, but before any of that, if you are enjoying the show, please do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from, and wherever that place might be. If it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please do give the show a rating and a review. On Spotify, you just need to have listened to 30 minutes of the episode, which might actually have passed just by hitting this point, and you click on the 3 dots and give it a star rating. 5, please. That would be super helpful and help with visibility, very different things. Also check us out on social media if you want to send us any thoughts or feelings on an episode, or just you like what the show is. You can find me on Twitter at _RJ Simpson, or on Instagram at Directors Uncut Pod, but never Facebook. Facebook is awful. Terrible place. If you want to email as well, you can find me at directorsuncutpod@gmail.com. A little bit of an announcement before we set up what's coming up and drop the clip for next week's episode. There's a series of videos that I used to do on the Geek Show's YouTube channel. The link will be down in the description below, called Listomania. The title was Needlessly Nerdy Lists. Did a little bit of movies in that, did a little bit of video games, but I think it's going to solely be focused on movies, and if it is video games, it'll be with a heavy spin towards movies. We'll be bringing that back. Only when I have the idea, though. I think what killed it previously is me trying to do an episode every month, regardless of idea, and the amount of research and editing and sourcing stuff, it just burns you out, man. It burns you out hard. But I will be bringing it back, only when I have the ideas, though, and the first one that I'll be doing in the gap between series, which ends first Friday of July, starts again first Friday of August, will be the best movies of season 1. That's 21 directors, or 21 episodes, loads and loads of great movies. And obviously it'll be a very personal spin, because if you do it from a purely academic and film studies level, it's going to be some classy movies, and I'm not a classy sort of podcast host, so there's that. Let's just jump into the clip from a previous recording of who we're going to do in the next upcoming episode of Directors Uncut.
Okay then, so 408 directors, generator number now, and it's director number 96. 96.
96, where are we? Oh, Jackie Chan.
Wow, okay.
Talk about left turns. That is something.
Oh, right, yeah, because we could do a whole manner of things. I know, didn't he direct some of the Project A films as well? Hang on, I need to have...
He's done more than you think. The famous one, which I will always state, it's probably one of the greatest action movies of all time, but Police Story is one of his.
Police Story is such a great film.
If you don't like that, I think you just don't enjoy cinema, because it's just wild. But
yeah,
I'll be honest, I think Jackie Chan in the 70s and 80s is far better than anything else he ever did. But let's see, director.
I will be honest, I do have a soft spot for his American stuff. I mean, I don't think they're like the grandest, say, the Hong Kong stuff, but, they're still entertaining.
Oh, yeah, he's always entertaining. Let's see. Oh, Legend of the Drunken Master, that's a good one. Police Story, yeah, Project A, like you said, he did both of those. Young Master.
Oh, he did both of those,
Young Master, Dragon Lord. It'll be an interesting episode, that one, I think. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, Armour of God. There's a lot of stuff to pick there.
He died in Armour of God, but then again, Jackie Chan nearly died in every movie he's ever made.
Yeah, I don't know how that guy does it. It's just an incredible stuntsman.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Graham Williamson, and I like films starring pop stars. I like films about pop stars. I like films which have set design by pop stars. Probably gone a bit far there, I can't actually think of one of those. Anyway, this is why I've launched the Geek Show's new podcast, Pop Screen, where every week, me and a guest host take a look at one film, either starring by or about a pop star, and by pop I could mean anything from heavy metal to blues to disco to hip-hop, and we analyse it relentlessly, asking all of the big questions.
Ewan, who's your favourite Spice Girl?
Oh no. Can I say Richard E. Grant's my favourite Spice Girl?
And even giving some of the big answers with our unparalleled level of research and nerdishness.
I'm definitely a Beatles fan. I was on a Beatles tour taxi in Liverpool with my family, and the tour guide started referring to me for little details and to double check his facts.
So whether you're an absolute beginner or a 24-hour party person, get swept away. I'll stop doing this now, I promise. by Pop Screen, the new podcast from the Geek Show Podcast Network. It's about music, it's about movies, it's about nonsense. We're hosted on Audio Boom and available on your podcast provider of choice, as well as the Geek Show's YouTube channel. Remember to like and subscribe.
A new life in a new town until a mysterious crime
여보세요, 주야?
took it all away.
제발 부탁드릴게요, 우리 주희주.
하나님 말씀 중에 네 원수를 용서하고
Bringing it all back down to earth again, we have to talk about the latter of his two movies that we're going to be talking about today. 2007's Secret Sunshine.
Yeah, and this is a strange one because this ended up on the Criterion Collection as like one of the first Korean dramas that they put out way before like the likes of Parasite and Memories of Murder showed up.
Oh yeah, it's how I first heard about him. You know.
Yeah, it's a very very. Well, I guess it's also his breakthrough, so it does kind of make sense for Criterion to put it out. So
yes, and this one is about a woman, a single mother called Shinee. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but I'm doing it the best I can.
It's all right, it's fine.
Called Shinee, who moves to a new city who its name translates as Secret Sunshine. So the name of the movie is the name of the town that she moves to. I can't remember the name of it. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it because I will inevitably make a hash of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, she's moved there with a kid, and it seems to be going fine for a while. You know, she's got some money to invest after her husband. He died. I can't remember. Let's say how he died.
Yeah, it's mentioned. It's brought up off screen. It happens off screen, so it's basically as part of the character's backstory, isn't it? So it's just. There's something there that haunts the character's past. Shin-Lee,
and we got to spoil this one again because you can't really talk about it without spoiling it. But it's going well for a while. She's flashing the cash around. She wants to invest in some land. It seeds it a little bit in the early goings. You know, a kid, Jun, who keeps on hiding and making a game out of it until one time she can't find him and he's been kidnapped.
Yeah.
And I think we have to kind of come out and say it, don't we? He ends up dying, the poor kid.
Yeah.
And another upbeat one to talk about, I'm really sorry. It's about how she deals with those losses.
Yeah. You could probably build a structure out of my notes when I was watching this film, where I was just where I just sat through the first half an hour, and just oh, this is really lovely and charming. It's quite and then it just gets gradually more bleak as the list goes on.
For the first 30-45 minutes, I could happily watch a Lee Chang-Dong sort of slice of life movie. This is Lee Chang-Dong doing his Koreeda Harikatsu. I could happily sit here and watch this. This is lovely. And oh no.
It just gets gradually more bleak as it goes along. Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I think out of the Lee Chang-Dong films that I've seen, I did like this one the most.
I would agree there. I think it is the best. Because I don't know, it's something intangible about it. I think that the characters presented and the world that it puts you into, it feels more real than it's a tool for him. It's a tool for subtext in a lot of his films. Whereas this, it just feels like it's a real place and the real people, and he's telling their story.
Because I just find Shin a much more defined character than, say, the likes of anyone found in the other two Lee Chang-Dong films that I've seen. Yeah. Firstly, it's very much, I wouldn't say relatable, but more a woman that's just completely just traumatized. For example, she's called out by her grandmother at a kid's funeral by saying, "You bring nothing but bad luck on this family. First your husband, now your kid."
Yeah, and you
just sat there thinking, "Well, Jesus Christ!"
You can see the woman's absolutely broken, and
beyond repair.
Because she's not crying, she's not mourning. It's just really hard seeing that one. And it's also got Kang-Ho song in this as well, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, Kang-Ho song, I do wish his character was a bit more developed, but at the same time, he is still providing like a very good performance
Oh,
indeed. Maybe not my favourite Song Kang-Ho performance. I still think that's, Parasite, but at the same time, it's Song Kang-Ho. You can't really go wrong.
One of the
with it.
best actors working today.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to approach this because it's got so many things going on. One, I will say this: I had a Catholic upbringing, but bloody hell,
Yeah.
Koreans take it to a level above.
Yeah, really, yeah, like 2/3 of the way through, it just changes into a Christian conversion movie.
Yeah, and I don't think it particularly looks upon that world very favourably.
Yeah, because there's certainly a lot. I mean, you just see like Shinai. I think in like the middle of like a sermon, just like burst out into wailing and screaming, like hysteric wailing and screaming.
Yeah.
Where it's just like a very powerful, like dramatic moment. And it's not, as Rob said, it's not particularly painted like quite favourably. It's often played in like broad strokes. There's also that moment where she buys like a K-pop CD, puts it on a speaker of an outsourced sermon, and then it's just like says all it is just blasting out the words lies. All this is lies.
Lies, lies, lies. Love is lies, 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 lies. And they're trying the hardest. We're going to continue doing this sermon. That's not happening. There's no music in the background. Which
I never thought like Chang-Dong would have a sense of humour in that way, but he kind of does, really.
It's very
very
dark. But yeah, it's there.
I still don't think it's like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece like a lot of people have been comparing it to.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think it's still a bit overlong, and it probably does lose steam like in the last, half an hour or so?
Yeah, I mean, its show was 20 minutes, and I don't think it has enough story to be that long.
Yeah, but from the same time, it's I don't think enjoyable is the right word, because come on, you're dealing with a film that has like the slaying of a child is like one of the inciting incidents. I mean, it's far from enjoyable. But at the same time, it's very engaging. I felt.
I think it goes back to that thing. It has faith in its characters. The mother, Shanae, she's not depicted as a particularly likable character. But I mean, the first time you see her, she walks into, I can't remember what sort of shop it is, but she basically said, "Your shop won't be struggling so much if you painted it lighter. People will be wanting to come in here," which is an awfully bitchy thing to say to somebody the first time you meet them.
Yeah.
And she just doesn't present herself well to the community. She kind of comes off as a bit high and mighty. But at the same time, I do think she's depicted with a lot of sympathy, and you do really care for her as a person and what happens to her.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, there's also that bit where, again, go back to the CD thing where she shoplifts a couple CDs, and it was just like the store owner comes up to her and just says, "You can't be doing that, that's stealing." It was just like, "I haven't stolen anything. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about." Things like that. Just really having a quite arrogant, horrible thing to say, really. But and she gets caught for it. But at the same time, as Rob said, yeah, you are right. You do feel sympathy for her. You do feel some emotional connection to her.
Yeah.
And that's all power to it, really.
It's all down to the performance. Again, I'm not going to pretend to know the actor's name here, so hold on me. Yeon-jo-jeon.
Yeah, let's have a quick look at her IMDb, see what else she's done. Because I do completely agree. I think she's basically the star of this. She's absolutely terrific in it.
I don't think I've seen her in anything before, no. She's been in The Housemaid, the remake of that. That's...
Oh, yeah.
What does that say? Probably... Beasts Clawing at Straws. Yep, don't know what that one is.
Yeah, there's like a whole filmography's worth that I'm not familiar with. So this is probably like the thing that's the most recognisable out of a CV. Yeah. Again, not to say her a detriment, it's just the nature of these.
Put her on the map, yeah. And it's such a complicated performance as well, because she goes through so many evolutions. She's a catty but dutiful mother who does a weird decision. Apparently the husband was cheating on her, but she still wants to go back to his hometown and their roots, which is a confusing character beat, but it's something that she's going to go with. Then she's the mourning mother, and then she's the sort of very dutiful Christian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the last act, you talked about with the CD situation, she goes to the prison. We got to spoil it. You can't talk about it in sort of grand terms about spoiling these things. She goes to the prison to forgive the man who killed her son. Mm-hmm. And he says, I've accepted the God into my life. the Lord into my life. I mean, it's such a good performance because you can kind of see the light leave her eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I say, it's just an incredibly, astonishingly powerful film at the best of times, really. Again, like I say, not entirely 100% successful, but now with this, I can kind of see like the praisal that Chang-Dong gets. I know Sean Baker's like a really huge advocate of him. The guy who did, was it Tangerine and the Florida Project?
I think he's got Red Rocket coming out this year too, but yeah.
Yeah. And I never really quite, got the appraisal, but with this, I think this is the closest you're going to get with me to say that I've actually, liked, or at least, felt gripped by one of his films, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know whether it'd be the same if we watched it at the height, because for me, I think the thing which brought Burning down was its hype.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The hype that it's this, great, modern, Korean classic, which I didn't think was true, whereas this, the separation from all of that, I get to see this for the film it is, and again, that lead performance, the weird role which Kang-Ho song makes, and the way all the characters sort of interact with each other, and it's a great depiction of a community.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, you feel as if you know these people. I think that's the best way you can sum it up. I mean, you've got the chemist, you've got Song Kang-ho's character, you have the police department. It does feel like a community that honestly is familiar, and it's not like the stereotypical problem that you see in a lot of Asian cinema where you just feel at a distance.
Yeah.
Really, with you need to know the inner context, the political, sociological context, or historical value before you get to appreciate that. I mean, I've had that problem before with a lot of Asian stuff, but this is, it's like I say, it's very airtight, very, focused on what it wants to do, and kudos to that, really.
Yeah, I mean, if he did more stuff like this, I mean, yes, it is incredibly bleak, but if he stuck to his guns with his characters, because I think in the case, not relating back to Burning too much, but with that, I think he's adapting characters, and I don't think he's great at working with adapted scripts.
Yeah.
I think the script for Secret Sunshine is him at the peak of his powers in pretty much every way. Again, I think there's a lot of problems with it, but as far as a pure expression of his craft, I think this is the best he ever has been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I would agree. I mean, because he's had a very short career as well, because he's only really it's very unprolific, shall we say? I mean, he's not like
I've seen 4, and I think there's 2 that I haven't seen.
Yeah, I think Peppermint Candy is one of them.
Oasis is the other one.
Yeah, that's it. And don't get me wrong, I'll probably get around to them when I can, but I mean, they're not on my high watch list of Korean stuff that I need to catch up with.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like an awful statement. This is bleak, but it's not too bleak.
It's manageable.
And one of them, I can't remember which one, the ones that either Oasis or Peppermint Candy, one of them is about a man who commits suicide at the beginning, and the rest of the movie goes back in time 20 years to find out why he committed suicide. I mean, it's just unremittingly bleak. I'm just not interested in that. Where it's something which Graham has brought up. I mean, he's much more well versed in social realism than I am. I mean, it's a movie about reality and the social, but it's both bleak and it has those glimmers of what real life is. It's not all bleak. There's a scene where you see Kang-Ho songs singing in his garage, to karaoke. You see beyond the bleakness.
Yeah, it's that hopefulness that does, like we said before, have underlaying it all, isn't it? I mean, like I say, that first half an hour, it's just I could watch full 2 hours of that and really not feel anything that felt wasn't worthwhile, really.
Yeah. I think he has a great sort of slice of life movie in him.
Yeah. I don't think he's probably quite made that just yet, but at the same time, there is definitely some treasures there that I think would be definitely worth it.
Yeah, I mean, he has the gift, I think. We kind of segued into it kind of neatly, but anything else you want to say about sort of the Chang-Dong?
Like I said, I don't think I have anything against him. I mean, for example, we were discussing it before, it's one of these directors that gets a lot of praise on the Cannes circuit. And that can be a double-edged sword. At the worst of times, you get, someone like Lars von Trier just being a complete arse tit.
Oh, that's a new one.
And then the best of times, you've got folk like Chang-Dong or even like, say, Lucretia Martel, really, who...
Lucretia Martel?
I mean, I don't... The person who did Zama and the Henchman.
Oh, yeah. 100% behind you there.
Yeah, it's just like, no thank you. So, you know what, I mean... I don't think... to say he's like my least favourite South Korean director, I think is not true. I think he's certainly got his moments, but at the same time, sometimes it just doesn't pay off for my liking, and that's just purely down to personal taste.
I mean, of course. I mean, the only thing I could really add to that is I don't really think that he feels like a Korean director in the stuff that he does.
Yeah, it's certainly like not like a Bong Joon-ho film or a Park Chan-wook film where it's hyper-stylized and,
stylistically, I'd say it feels more European, more maybe French.
Yeah, possibly gimmicks of Robert Bresson, really.
Like Celine Sciamma, like that sort of. I think who did Petit Maman and Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Waterloos is a great film, I will say, because Celine Sciamma, or even like, say, I don't know, maybe is it the Dardenne Brothers, actually? I think it is the Dardenne Brothers.
Yeah, they're similar too, that sort of... Yeah, actually, the Dardenne Brothers are very good. They did a Kid Without a Bike, I think. That's one of theirs. Yeah, that's pretty spot on, that, I think. He's pretty much cut from that exact style, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes that can work really well. Sometimes, you get to the glowers of like British social realism that I really don't really think. Well, we've been on the subject before, haven't we?
But I mean, you don't need to sugarcoat it. Say what you want. It's called Directors Uncut, so uncut away.
Yeah, I mean, British social realism at the best of times, it can be great and uplifting, like Steve McQueen's take on Small Axe. And at the worst of times, you've got like so many fucking films on a council estate where it's just like,
yeah,
I don't want to be here. I don't want to be reminded of reality.
Yeah, I think we better pick it up there. But I think Lee Chang-Dong, I think he has his best film in him yet. I think that it's still to come, really.
Yeah, but I think he's certainly worth keeping an eye on. I would totally agree with you there.
So we will see whenever he does his next one. I mean, since 1997, he's done 6 movies, so he's not like super prolific by any.
Yeah, like I say, he's a person who takes his time, so he's not. Some directors do that, so it's it's just the way of the game. So, Aidan, where can people find you online? At the moment, I only really have my Letterboxd really active, so you can find me on there under the username Aidan F. I don't really use my full name anymore because it's just partly the reason I have to do now with work. So, but no, you can find me. You can find me there.
Got a pseudonym. How many people can say they've got a pseudonym? Just don't reduce it to McG and we'll be golden forever.
I think my favourite is when that remake of Superfly came out and the director was called Director X.
Oh man,
which is like that's the worst thing. It's like I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting a James Bond villain.
You'd like me to give you a name? Huh? Tony? Oh, we didn't like Tony. Tony the robot? Huh? Clive?
No.
Huh? Charles?
Charles.
Charles?
Charles.
Charles? Charles?
Charles.
Charles. Charles, you like Charles?
Charles Petrescu.
You want that name, do you? Charles Petrescu? All right, then.
I am Charles Petrescu. Hello, Brian.
Hello, Charles. It's lovely to meet you. Wow.
I am your friend.
I'm your friend too.
Now for this last part of the show in which we are joined by some new guests to talk about some films, some TV, whatever is taking our fancy that we've been watching. That's a really poorly worded sentence, but I'm committing to it and we're going to continue on. Debuting on this part of the show, we have Belle. Hello there.
Hi there, and thanks for having me on to the show. And
also joining us is Cliff. Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. It's too warm, but I'm pasty and
Such
northern.
a northerner thing to say.
Well, I'm northern. There was an article in the newspaper that says apparently I'm not as smart with the words.
never fucking happy, are you lot?
No, we're not. I mean, have you been up here though? Seriously?
Well, yeah, good point.
Okay.
Yep, there's so much I've been watching because I watch a lot all the time. One that I'll maybe throw out a bit from possibly out of left field because I know there's some major ones that are out now which everyone's probably talking about, but one that I watched which isn't horror, but it's kind of like, gateway horror, but I watched the film Night Books on Netflix and really, really enjoyed it. It's kind of very goosebumpsy kind of gateway horror, so perfect for younger people that are just kind of dipping their toes in the water. And it's just really good fun. Kind of the premise is basically this witch kind of demon character basically wants this writer to he's a kid, he's I think maybe 13, 14, and essentially wants this kid to write a scary story every night to kind of keep her satisfied while she keeps him trapped in her big witch's house. And then there's another kid who's been there for a long time, and one kind of really kind of creepy moment where you see a shelf with all the frozen miniature statues of all the kids that the witch has kind of been you know what, I don't like you anymore, and is frozen in time. But it's just a really good fun movie, and the kids are great in it. The witch is played by Kristen Ritter, who was Jessica Jones in that Netflix show, and she just really plays into this big,
very good,
over the top camp witch, and it's just a really good fun movie. So that's one of the things I've been watching recently.
That's a topic that's very close to my heart, honestly. The gateway horror, because they're so very, very rare now. Night Books is one. I mean, it's not many. I think Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was meant to be one.
Yeah, I would say so. And that there was 2 Goosebumps films, weren't there?
I think that's
actually covered Goosebumps 2 on our Halloween episode of Devil Science 5 last year, and it was way better than I expected.
Well, I think Scary Stories is a bit too harsh, really, for that gateway, but it's a rare thing.
Well, not really when you think about what gateway horror films were when I was a young'un. The Gate is kind of a good example of something that's on the same kind of level as Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, I think.
It dated badly in some ways, that one, though.
The Gate?
Yeah.
It's not
it throws around gay slurs like it's going out of business. It's wow, the 80s were different, weren't they?
Very much so.
What I mean, yeah.
But it's an interesting the gateway horror is an interesting kind of topic because I think every horror fan has a different way in. Sometimes it's you've had an elder parent or brother or something like that who's introduced you to kind of the harder horror early on, and that's your gateway, whereas other people, they actually just kind of dip their toes in the water. And that's why I like these movies like Night Books and stuff like that, because it's more for someone who'd be kind of maybe not that familiar with horror, but it's a good way for them to kind of just dip in the shallow end, have a little bit of wading in the water and seeing if horror is where they're destined to enjoy.
It has actually got a PG rating, I see. Actual PG. You don't see many of them these days.
There was another one, wasn't there? I can't remember it. What was it called? It was based off another one of those sort of 90s TV shows. I can't remember the name of it. It had Mrs. Tom Cruise in it. And it would have been a great... I can't remember its name specifically. It would have been a great one, but apparently there's a bit in it where her leg snaps in half, and that raised it from a 12 to a 15.
Actually, I've just seen Night Books got 12, but from the BBFC, it's PG in America.
But it was produced by Guillermo del Toro. 2011-12 sort of space.
Well, you're not talking about The Orphanage or... Oh, no, you said it's got Mrs. Tom Cruise in it. Which one?
Katie Holmes.
Katie Holmes, 2011. Guillermo del Toro.
I think it had Guy Pearce in. Does it have Guy Pearce in as the husband?
I do remember a Guillermo del Toro one with Guy Pearce in it, but I can't remember the name of it. But I think it's coming into my head now. It's like there's like these little kind of fairies that come out of the wall, I think. I think we're thinking of the same film, but I can't remember the name of it for the life of me.
Oh, that's really frustrating. Okay. Cliff, what have you been watching?
Are you thinking of The Skeleton Key?
I think that must be it, isn't it? No.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, yeah, you don't see... It's something I've thought about for years, really. You don't see many PG-rated films these days. Like, they either get U's or PG-12. It's not PG-12, 12 is what we call them in this country.
Yes.
And live-action PG-rated films are very rare, so I was surprised to watch one recently. It's Brian and Charles, which just showed at Sundance, London, and won the Audience Award at Sundance, London, and quite rightly so, because it's really good. It's Brian Gittins, which is David Earl's character that he's been doing as a stand-up character for years and years and years and years. And for a while, he did it as a kind of double act with a robot called Charles Petrescu, who speaks in the most deadpan electronic voice, sort of quite generic, off the shelf, robot voice. He's really funny. They're great together. And this incarnation of Brian Gittins in the film, he's an inventor living a lonely life in the Welsh Valleys, out just near a quite grim village, although other reviews I've seen say a beautiful village. But, each to their own. It looks pretty grim.
Must be in the north.
And he invents a robot, and unlike most of his other inventions, it actually turns out to be useful and work, but probably thanks to a lightning strike overnight during a thunderstorm. And he grows up quick. He starts out with a kind of inquisitive child's mind, quickly becomes a petulant teenager. It's just really funny. Charles is an amazing character, and it's incredible to think that Brian Gittins, David Earl, the creator of Brian Gittins, it's finally, after all these years, going to get his moment, because this is destined to be a cult movie. It's as quotable as Withnell and I. It's great. It's really, really good, and it's the best thing I've seen so far this year. And I know David. He's played my venue as a comedian for many years. He's had his ups and downs. He's had times of getting big audiences. He's had a dreadful time at Edinburgh Fringe where he just felt like giving the whole thing up. He did give the whole thing up for a while off the back of that. But yeah, amazingly, it's all resulted in this really great movie.
It's always an interesting transition when comedians make their leap to movies. There's so many times where it's went badly wrong. And,
well,
I'm not saying this is an example of that. I'm just saying it's very easy for them to get it wrong.
Yeah, I was trying to think of examples of that. I mean, all that springs to mind for some reason is Drop Dead Fred.
Well, people from my generation adore that one.
Or actually, no, I love the Harry Hill movie. I think that's really funny.
He did a movie?
Yeah. But that's not a big stretch. That's just like a sort of very similar to how Harry Hill and his the characters he comes up with. So that's brilliant. Brian and Charles is kind of different because it is more of a kind of touching, a kind of bittersweet comedy. So it's quite simple. It's unthreatening. It's PG. But it's really well written, so that it's actually got moments of tension between the funny bits and a really exciting ending.
I don't know whether this is okay with me, but I didn't mind Mindhorn.
Yeah, it's good that Mindhorn. Yeah,
I can't remember her name. Julian Barrett.
What's his name? Julian Barrett.
The one who it's okay to like from the Mighty Boosh.
Hey, since when was it not okay to like Noel Fielding?
Well, he's divisive, isn't he? He's divisive. Yeah.
Okay.
That movie I was trying to think of was Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
Yeah. And it should have came right to the tip of the tongue. Such an easy name.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the TV show, but yeah.
It doesn't ring any bells at all.
I can't remember it being great, but it would have been better positioned if it was like for kids, like tweens. But yeah, there's a scene where the little goblin fairy things snap a leg in half, and yeah, straight 15 there.
Yeah, I think, like you're saying, if they had just left something like that out and it had a lower rating, it could have been received better, maybe. Like, I don't know, because I feel like once you get a higher rating, you almost expect more or something like that. And then if it's lacking that, you're just like, oh, that was a disappointment of a film because it didn't live up to the rating it had. And it makes it tricky.
Horror fans are a picky bunch.
Oh, very much so. You notice that on Twitter every day.
Yeah, try not to engage it. When you see horror movies that you like trending on Twitter, just stay away because it's usually for a bad reason. Always. I tried Arrow Play for a month. And having both that and Shudder at the same time felt really redundant, so I'm just sort of honouring the 1 month of Arrow Play, catching the things that I wanted to see for a while. I haven't had opportunity. So I watched Crazy Thunder Road. I've got blank expressions from both of you.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard of it. I literally just got Arrow Player myself, so at least I know it's something I could potentially look out for. But no, I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah, it's in the Japanese section by Gaku Ryu Ishii. It's one of these sort of street gang movies. One of the things that I think is missing as well, it's just movies aimed at teenagers. It used to be much more common in the 70s, 80s, even going as far as 90s, I dare to say. But now, you just don't get them anymore. And this is set in 1980, or made in 1980, I should say. So it's about the state of Japan at that time, where kids go off in this almost dystopian, end-of-the-world vision of Japan and just fight each other. Basically, they go around with baseball bats and all sorts of things, just fight each other. Really interesting because the guy who directed it by stepping out of university for a few months to actually make it. And that sometimes goes catastrophic. Oh, there's a word I'm not going to try to say it. I'll say it in a way. Sometimes it goes really badly wrong. And as far as how it's directed, I think he's done really, really well here. But it comes down to whether it works or not, the sort of tone of it. There's many I imagine both of you would agree, there's like certain pitches of movies that just hit you the wrong way. And for me, it's movies where the characters are sort of pitched at fever pitch, where they're all hysterical. Every line of dialogue is shouted, and it just really annoys you. And the lead actor, what's he called? Jin. You hear Jin said so much. I wanted bad things to happen to that character, which the movie didn't want to deliver on, really. But otherwise, it's like a really interesting movie. You're talking about a time of Japan which is mostly Americanized, but how they're fitting in that sort of world. But I just wanted bad things to happen to the kid. It was like Alacada was the same as well, like a classic Mexican horror movie. I think it's like early 60s, early 70s.
Alacada's great.
That's hysterical as well. That's very...
It's hysterical, but they're demonically possessed. They're allowed to...
Oh, it's justified. But
whereas in Gakuri Ishii's films, everyone's just fucking hyped up. I checked. I've seen 3 of his films. I've seen Electric Dragon, 80,000 Volts, Burst City, and Isn't Anyone Alive, which is much more recent. And I gave all of them 1 star.
I've heard things about that 80,000 Volts. That is supposed to be a bit much, that one.
It's like Tetsuo, but annoying.
Okay.
So all the cool, cyberpunk stuff that Shinyo Tsukamoto put into Tetsuo, the Iron Man. Imagine that, but it's all kind of just annoying. Just annoying. It's about like a couple of musicians having a fight, I think, but like a kind of as if they're kaiju, but they're just blokes who.
I've not seen Tetsuo because I think it's one of those movies where you catch a little bit and you're a kid and it just completely scars you. I think it was like on Channel 4 late one night, and I swapped the channels over, maybe 12 or 13, and I saw the drill penis bit.
Yeah.
At that age, it's not ideal. Okay, so Belle, what else have you been watching?
I'm trying to think of other again, one of the ones that was mentioned that you mentioned before we started recording, which I did see in the cinema, was Men, and what I'll briefly kind of say about it, because I'd imagine there's lots of people that have lots of thoughts about this very kind of recent film, Alex Garland film. It disturbed me to no end. I kind of left the film kind of like I'm still processing it, and I think I kind of made this slight mistake of like doing a double feature of Men directly followed by Everything Everywhere All at Once. So that was like two very different types of films and lots of emotions in a very short span of time. But the one thing that I would just say about Men, and potential spoiler for people who haven't seen it, but there is one scene which, I don't know, I feel like you can tell it was a cisgender man that wrote this film, because there's a particular scene that, I don't know, just the imagery from it, I'm just kind of feeling like it could have been maybe possibly handled better. I'm still piecing it together. I think I need to see it again to really process it and see where it sits with me. But
it was Garland who wrote it, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he was the writer and director, wasn't he? Yeah. But yeah, that's one of the ones that I've been saw recently. And then more on the kind of more mainstream things I've been, TV wise, watching recently, like, The Boys and Obi-Wan and everything that's mainstream and popular, and enjoying it because it's all just fun stuff and I'm a happy nerd.
I kind of bounced off The Boys, I'll be honest. I got a season 2 and I thought, why, they just go for a run, get out the system, do something nice for themselves. It's also angry.
It is very angry, and I think I love how almost like every episode and definitely every season, they're just like, we have to outdo ourselves based on what we did in the last season. And I think that's what I love about it, is just seeing what they're going to try and come up with that's so outlandish, and they're achieving it, which I like.
Excellent.
Going back to Men, though, I really liked it, but I, as a horror fan of old, I really wish he'd got a proper effects guy in to do the final act, because the CGI, it just doesn't achieve the effect that it needs to achieve. It's all like, oh right, that's interesting, whereas what you should be doing is going, oh, that's really disgusting. But it's all just too kind of
polished,
smooth looking, too polished, too clean. Not clean exactly, but clean. It should be sticky, it should be liquidy, it should be like Society, it should be like the ending of Society.
Yep, which is also something I saw for the first time in the last week.
Right.
Perfect segue.
And I have many thoughts over that film. But yes, I agree.
This might be a very, very controversial opinion. I don't know, but what's the name of the director? It completely escapes me.
Brian Usner.
Brian Usner. I just hate all of his stuff.
Oh.
I've tried many, many things. I just no.
Oh, I think it's really good.
Take away Screaming Mad George, and what's he got? That's what I'm saying.
I mean, Return of the Living Dead 3 is a beautiful film, beautiful story, and amped up with loads of really horrible effects.
Yes. Screaming Mad George, if you don't know the name, listeners, he is the effects guy who did things like Reanimator, Society, Return of the Living Dead Part 3. He did a lot in the 80s. He was a Japanese guy, I think he was.
Yeah. Yeah. Japanese-American, I think.
Yeah. But did you like Society, though?
Oh, yeah, I enjoyed it. Enjoyed, I don't know, enjoyed, that might sound cool. paint a different picture. But I thought, like this is something that, on my own podcast, I've had the conversation a few times, but, the comparing, the impact of subtext versus text, which is more impactful, which kind of is better to observe. And I kind of really did like how Society was very much just text. There's no subtext. It's just very in your face, very much text. And I thought it did it mostly well. It was entertaining, and I enjoyed the messages it tried to impact, and it achieved the wet, squelchy, disgusting effects, which is kind of what you want from a film that's going to have something called the shunting.
Iconic for all the right reasons.
Exactly.
Cliff.
Where should we go next? Let's do The Innocence, which is the new film from why haven't I got this up on my screen? Why have I got the other one I was going to talk about up on my screen? It's the guy who co-wrote Worst Person in the World and also Thelma with Joachim Trier, and his name is Eskil Vogt. So it's a Norwegian film about 4 children who live on a housing estate, and they're kind of outcasts. They find each other in the playground, realise that when they're together, their psychic and telekinetic powers are strong, and which is all fine and everything. And one of the girls helps a very autistic girl to come out of her shell a bit through kind of sort of telepathically telling her how to speak again, which is really interesting, and it's really good. And everything's positive, apart from there's this one kid who is a psychopath basically, and starts using his powers for evil. And you could absolutely imagine this exact same story being set at on a college campus with 18, 19-year-olds, and it would be a pretty normal, teen horror film. But because they're all 9 and 10 years old, it's fucking dark. Like, they hurt each other, these kids, and it's...
I mean, Kat has mentioned it before, and the one thing she mentioned is there's one bit where she had to stop watching. That's all she mentioned about it.
Well, there's at least 2 bits I could think that could possibly be. There is one scene about halfway through that I just went, fucking hell, out loud. It's really great.
Okay.
They're such good actors, these kids in it as well. Like, I don't know. Have you seen Tomboy or Petit Maman? The Celine
Petit Maman,
films?
yeah. That's a fantastic movie.
So, she gets really great performances out of the kids she works with, and this Eskil Vogt bloke has managed to do something similar, but you're sort of using that for bad because it's quite a horrible film, but it's really, really, really good.
Yeah. Going a bit classic. I've got a little thing running on Letterboxd where I think I've got a list going to 1960, and I'm picking all the most popular horror films from each respective year that I haven't seen, which has seen me watch The Wicker Man for the first time a while back, which I think I need to revisit because it's one of those movies that I think you can sort of dip in every so often, and it's absolutely fine. But the one we're talking about now is 1963's Black Sabbath by Mario Bava.
Okay.
People say it's his masterpiece. I disagree wholeheartedly.
Do they?
Some people do. Just for clarity, my favourite Bava is Kill Baby Kill. Just putting it out there.
Oh, that's a good one, that, yeah. Mine is probably Shock or possibly Rabid Dogs.
I've seen Rabid Dogs yet, but he's so diverse. It's a portmanteau. It's got 3 stories. The first one is Telephone, in which a woman is basically phoned over and over again, and the guy on the other side of the phone is basically, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to get you good, revenge, I'm going to do you in. But you're also beautiful, but I'm going to kill you, I'm going to do you in. It's very tonally weird. The second
There's
one...
There's 2 very different versions of that, because it depends whether you're watching the Italian dialogue or the American dialogue.
That's Italian,
yeah. Because they really toned it down for the American one, so it takes out all the kind of the fact that they're lovers, these 2 women. Changes a lot of the story as well. So yeah.
Well, I watched the Italian dub, so I think probably the best one to go about. And the second one is a period horror, sort of let's say like 1600s or so, loosely, vampire themed, called the
Verdelak.
Yeah, essentially a story. A family's living out in the woods. The grandfather of that family's gone out to kill this mysterious character. He comes back, but he's weird. And the fact that I've set it up as being sort of about vampires, it kind of sets the stall for what he is and what he's come back as. That one goes on a bit too long, I think.
Yep, I agree. I don't really like period horror as it is, and that one just goes on and on and on and isn't very exciting.
It's not, no. I mean, it's got some great... I mean, if you don't know Bava, the one thing that you'll know from his horror stuff is it's gorgeous. The lighting and the cinematography. I don't think there's many people who were, when he's at his best at least, on his level. But no. The last one, which has a little bit of that Bava style, my favourite of the three, The Drop of Water.
Yeah, so good.
Which is very, very creepy. Big Gothic building. I don't know how you describe it. It's not a mansion. It seems to be just a hotel or something. And one of the occupants has died, and it's the most surly-faced looking death I've ever seen. And she just laid there in the bed, but she's also got this really lovely ring on her finger. And the person who has come to tidy up after the fact says, "Ooh, lovely ring. I'm having a piece of that." And things start happening. It starts with the drip of water, and then effectively it's like the slow creep of a ghost coming to get you. And yeah, it's brilliant. Really good, creepy, very, very creepy haunted house thing. But the fact that you've got to sit through two all right anthology things, I think that's what lets it down. If it was just the short called the Drop of Water, go for it. But yeah, I don't know how people can say this is Bava's classic, because it's just not.
Yeah, I mean, I like I'm absolutely with you, actually. I like the telephone well enough. I think the Verdal that goes on way too long and isn't very good, and the Drop of Water makes it all worthwhile. It's amazing.
Yes.
Probably shit me up. The first time I watched it, I actually watched it on the train, and even watching it on the train, I was totally shit up by that.
Yeah, I can see why.
It's so scary.
He did another anthology, didn't he? What was the other one? Black Sunday. Yeah, I prefer that one, I'll be honest. Commits a bit more to the gothic stuff. But yeah, Belle, anything else?
Well, actually, I only watched it the other night because I'm planning on covering it for my own show, but it's so good. Or I thought it was really good. But I watched a few years old now, but the Purge election year, and it just really stood out for me. I really enjoyed the messaging behind it. Again, I very much enjoy films that are just in your face about what they're saying. Like I like those type of ones.
The election year, which I can't remember that one though. That's
the third one in the franchise. It came out 2016 actually, so kind of very but it was I thought it was really, like, it was set 2 years after the previous one, the Purge Anarchy. And what I like about I think the Purge franchise, it is what it is. Like, it's not amazing, it's not terrible either. You get what you get from it. I like them. They're kind of like, good, kind of, what you're getting horror films, like middle of the road, and sometimes that's what you want. And I enjoy the franchise for that. But what I do like is every film has the same writer and director, James DeMonaco, so I kind of like that you have one person kind of controlling the entire franchise.
Keep it consistent.
Exactly, and you can have his voice.
But he's terrible. He's awful. There's such shit.
One question I always have about the Purge universe is whoever is doing those masks is just absolutely cleaning up shop, making a killing. He's a millionaire somewhere off his masks.
I hate those. I really hate those films. I think the first Purge is good, but no, I don't. By which I don't mean the first film in the series. I mean the fourth film in the series. It's called The First Purge.
Yeah.
The one that shows how it originally came about. I think that's quite well done, and it's lots of good design in that. But
is that
but
the one?
His scripts are so boring, so repetitive, so racist. He's basically got one trick, which is you think someone's going to get killed, and then someone off screen shoots them and shoots their attacker even. And
I like this as conflict. Is the First Purge the one with the bit at the end that's basically Die Hard but with a black dude? Because they all kind of meld together a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't seen
like
the First
them,
Purge yet, but that's on my list. But
I do like them for exactly the same reason. What you see is what you get, but they do kind of meld together a little bit.
They do blend, and I agree with you there that they are repetitive. Like, you can, and maybe that's the downside of having the same person controlling the ship, is that it is the same consistent voice. But yeah, no, I thought election year, just as a film, I don't know, the fact that it was very much hitting home the message of classism, and then also the fact that the people that were essentially working for the government in power were essentially neo-Nazis, I thought was very relevant for the time it came out and also for now. So yeah, like again, they're not the best films, but I'm also someone who has a very soft spot for the absolutely terrible film Ghost Shark. So like my taste is all over the place. So like
hang on. You can't just drop that and then leave it. Ghost Shark.
It is one of my, it's terrible. Like it's a terrible film, but I absolutely love it because it has some of the most outlandish and best ridiculous kills in a heart. It's like a slasher with a ghost shark. I absolutely adore it. It's one of my favorites. I try and subject everyone to it because I just think it's glorious in its terribleness.
How does it compare to Ouija Shark?
I haven't seen Ouija Shark, so I can't answer that.
Oh well, if you want to see if you want to see a shark flying through chasing someone through a forest, then Ouija Shark's the film for you.
I'll have to add it to my list.
I don't know how I can segue out of that. I'll say this on the Purge is they really need to do an anthology movie. That's the one thing they need to do.
Yeah, I think that'd be
perfect
interesting.
for that universe.
Is that what? Wasn't there an anthology TV series based on?
I never caught the series. I think it was on some service I didn't have, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've never watched it, but I think it's on Prime. I'm not sure if it's anthology or connective story. I haven't checked it out, but
if it's not, they've completely missed an opportunity because it's just it lends itself to that sort of storytelling so well. I think. Cliff.
So yeah, the other one I wanted to talk about. Much more serious film for shame, really, because it's Gaspar Noé's latest one, Vortex, which I was so excited about, and it's his least exciting film, to put it mildly.
By design, though, but yes.
Yeah. How long is it? It's 2 hours 22. It's slow, isn't it? It's slow. It's leisurely paced. The thing is, Dario Argento, what a great actor. Who knew? Francois Lebrun is also
one thing I learned off the press trailer list. He was the black gloved killer in all of his movies, which I just didn't know.
Yeah. So he claims anyway. IMDb seems to give him a credit for every film, assuming that he really was in every one. His hands were in every film, but I don't know how much that's true. But anyway, what a great actor. What a quite dull film, but I don't know if it's just because I was hoping for the usual Gaspar Noé fireworks, and there's none of that. Especially when it starts and you get the proper Gaspar Noé typeface, and you get like some interesting credit design where it gives the year of birth of Argento and Lebrun and Noé. I think, oh right, he's doing his exciting things. He's doing it, and then the exciting things just never come. But then I didn't like Enter the Void the first time I saw it either, and that's grown on me. So I'll almost certainly buy it when it comes out on Blu-ray and give it another go. Maybe I'll enjoy it more the second time when I know what to expect, but I don't know.
He's got some very defensive fans, though. That man has some nutty fans.
Oh, I am one of them.
Well, I've only seen one of his movies. I've seen Climax, but
which is one of his best. Yeah, one of his absolute fucking masterpieces. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's a nuts film. Seeing that in a cinema would be special.
Oh yes, it was.
But yes, anything else you two have up your sleeves that you want to mention before we wrap this up?
I'm happy to wrap it up.
Yeah, happy to wrap up and nothing jumping out.
Okay. Right, so that is it for this episode of Directors Uncut, talking about Lee Chang-Dong. Next week, it's Jackie Chan, which always fun, always a fun time, unless you're talking about the person, then not so much.
Oh, don't tell me he's cancelled as well.
No. I mean, you don't get to be a hugely successful Chinese actor without at least becoming a little bit of a figurehead for the Chinese regime. So,
right, yeah.
Yeah. There's that. And Michelle Yeoh just doesn't like him. So I'm on Michelle's Yeoh side. She's great.
Right.
Yes, so that's it for this week. Belle, where can we find you and your stuff online?
Yeah, again, thank you so much for having me on. It was enjoyable to chat about horror we've been watching recently. I am Mix Bell Morrigan across all social medias. That's MXBEL and then Morrigan, like the Celtic goddess of death. And then my podcast and website is Fishnets and Philosophy.
Excellent. And Cliff?
Devil Times 5 Horror Podcast. Devil X5 on Twitter, and just find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever, obviously. And we put out an episode every month, and it's very funny.
Yes. Excellent. Check out both those podcasts. And I've been your host, Rob, and that was Directors Uncut.